This might sound dramatic, but I think productivity ruined my hobbies. Not work, not my career, my hobbies. Because every time I found something I enjoyed, I immediately started asking how it could be more useful. Could I sell it? Could I post it? Could I turn it into a business? Could I somehow make it productive? And before I knew it, even relaxing felt like work. Reading became self-improvement, working out became discipline, hobbies became content, rest became recovery. Everything needed an outcome, everything needed a purpose, everything needed to justify its existence. And honestly, I got tired. Because somewhere along the way, my whole life became productivity. So today I'm doing something completely pointless. I'm painting tiny numbered shapes on a canvas for hours. And while I do that, I want to talk about why I stopped trying to be productive all the time. I don't think it happened overnight. I think it happened gradually. A podcast about becoming your best self. A book about better habits. A video about maximizing your potential. Another one about optimizing your routine. None of these things are bad. But eventually I realized I was treating every moment of my life like it needed to make me better somehow. And if it wasn't making me smarter, healthier, wealthier, more disciplined, or more successful, then it felt like I was wasting my time. Even rest started feeling like something I had to earn. I would sit down to relax and immediately start negotiating with myself. Maybe I should answer a few emails first. Maybe I should clean first. Maybe I should finish one more task. Maybe I should be productive before I relax. And what scared me was how normal this felt. Being busy felt normal. Feeling guilty felt normal. Constantly trying to improve myself felt normal. But normal doesn't always mean healthy. I think for a lot of us, productivity stopped being about getting things done. It became tied to our self-worth. Especially if you grew up being praised for being responsible, for being useful, for achieving things. You learn very quickly that people celebrate output, and eventually you start believing your value comes from what you produce. So when you're not producing something, you feel lazy, you feel behind, you feel like you're wasting your life. And honestly, the more obsessed I became with self-improvement, the more exhausted I became, because there is always another goal, another habit, another routine, another version of yourself you're supposed to become. The finish line keeps moving, you never arrive, and that's exhausting. Sometimes I wonder if part of the problem is that we're trying to know too much. The perfect routine, the perfect way to heal, the perfect way to be productive, the perfect version of ourselves. We're constantly researching, optimizing, learning, planning. What if I don't need to constantly search for the next answer? What if I don't need a podcast, a book, or a productivity expert to tell me what to do next? What if some parts of life are supposed to remain uncertain? Because I think sometimes all this self-improvement turns life into a problem we're trying to solve. And maybe life isn't a problem. Maybe it's something we're supposed to experience. I remember realizing one day that even my hobbies weren't safe anymore. Every time I enjoyed something, my brain immediately tried to monetize it. That's actually one of the reasons I started doing paint by numbers. Because there is no pressure. No talent required, no big decisions, no expectation that you're creating a masterpiece. You just sit down, paint tiny little sections, and let time pass. And somehow that feels radical now. Because modern life is constantly asking us to perform, to improve, to optimize, to achieve, to become. And for a couple of hours, painting lets me stop becoming and simply be. I think that's why these slow hobbies are becoming popular again. Painting, embroidery, crochet, gardening, all these little repetitive activities. They're not trying to make us better. They're reminding us that we don't always need to be better. Sometimes we just need to be present. Sometimes we need to stop treating ourselves like projects. Because honestly, life already asks enough from us. Maybe our hobbies don't need to ask for anything too. Maybe they're allowed to simply give. Give peace, give quiet, give enjoyment, give a few hours where nobody is evaluating us, including ourselves. And actually, there's something funny about this painting. I didn't finish it. There are still a few sections left. Some final touch-ups, little details I could go back and complete. But honestly, I don't want to. And for the first time, I think that's okay. Because somewhere in the past I would have forced myself to finish it. Not because I wanted to. Because I felt like I should. Because I started it, because people might see it, because there should be a finished product at the end. But the truth is, I already got what I wanted from it. I enjoyed the process. I spent a few peaceful afternoons with it. It did its job, and maybe that's enough. Maybe hobbies don't need to become accomplishments. Maybe they don't need to become content. Maybe they don't need a perfect ending. Maybe we're allowed to leave things unfinished. Maybe we're allowed to enjoy something without extracting every possible ounce of value from it. I don't owe this painting a finished version. And I don't owe anyone proof that I completed it. The point wasn't the result. The point was the experience. And honestly, I think that's what I'm trying to relearn. To do things because I enjoy them. Not because they're useful, not because they're productive, not because they'll get me somewhere. Just because they make life feel a little softer, a little slower, a little more human. I don't want my entire life to become a checklist. I don't want every hobby to become work. And I don't want to spend all my time trying to improve my life instead of actually living it. So maybe not everything meaningful has to be productive. Maybe some things are valuable simply because they bring you back to yourself. And maybe that's enough.